Hey, what's up? So we're going to look at a play. This is going to be the Stephon Diggs touchdown from this past weekend. The reason I wanted to look at this, a couple different reasons. It piqued my interest anyway. I was kind of curious. The reason I started doing anything for football was, why do guys get open? Basically, what's happening on the receiving end, what's happening on the back end, how does this stuff happen? So I was curious about that, and then I had a couple people hit me up say, "Hey, I was wondering if maybe you could look into that." And so this is me looking into that. So before I get too deep, first of all, I'll just bring this up. As a big thank you to Sam Holman. I had a couple ideas about this. If you're not following Sam Holman, follow Sam Holman. He's doing tremendous work on the Packers defense and very knowledgeable about this stuff. So I had a couple questions on this one. I reached out and said, "Hey, is this what this is?" And he said, "No, you big dumb idiot. It's this." He didn't say that. He's much nicer than that. But we kind of talked through a couple of the kind of core concepts, kind of what you're looking at in terms of what they break and everything. And so we got to a point where I was like, "I think I got a handle on this. Let's talk about it." So let's talk about it. So what are we looking at? So this is going to, the Packers are going to be essentially in quarters defense, quarters look. My initial thought based on alignment was that this was going to be cover 6 or like quarter, half. So you'd have this guy drop here, this guy drop here, then Amos would have all of this. I mean, the big thing was people, as I was as well, look at this play, which is Stephon Diggs touchdown. And we'll look at it. Actually, we're going to run it here in a second, and then we'll kind of dial it back and kind of look at everything. And actually, we'll do that right now. Is Adrian Amos. And the thought was, okay, was Amos supposed to have responsibility on this? And you can see him kind of drops back. Diggs gets up over the top, a little out and up. Great throw by Josh Allen. So that's the thought. People asking, was Amos supposed to be in on this? Someone even sent me the dots, where NFL Next Gen Stats has the dots of the play, and you can see kind of all the players moving and all of that. And during the game, someone asked me, "Hey, was this on Amos?" And I think my response was something like, I don't know until you can see the film, because the dots can tell you a lot. You can see paths, you can see all that stuff, but still you can see how a player reacts, some of the leverage, stuff like that. I never really feel comfortable diagnosing all of that. And again, I didn't feel comfortable diagnosing this without talking to someone who knows about more this stuff more than I do. So initially thought this was maybe a quarter, half look. And it's also called cover 6, or depending on the leverage of it, cover 8, whatever. The reason I cover 6 is that's they're in the quarters, so it's cover 4. These guys over here is cover 4, and this guy's in cover 2, so 4 plus 2 is 6. So that was my initial thought, and so the rules on that are different. Talked to Sam about this, and Sam said, "No, this is quarters." So the way base quarters looks is you have these 4 guys, and assignments change based on route distribution. And it's kind of where they break, when they break. And typically how that works is you say these guys kind of have their own keys, and you're reading out in, I believe you're reading 1 to 2. So you're reading inside receiver or outside receiver to inside receiver. But even then you're kind of looking, okay, what are the breaks? What are they doing here? And so what will happen with these guys then, these outside guys, these typically, the way this works, if the outside receiver takes this vertically, this is locked man to man. This is taken vertically, it's man to man. So then this guy is here, that guy's there. That's man to man. That's a responsibility. If these guys, and we'll do this, it's him and him. If these receivers in shallow in breaker, then the responsibility is this will fall out and you fade into your deep zone. You look to pick up a crosser or something, and you fall back into your deep zone. That's responsibility on the outside. Now, the inside responsibility, again, we'll talk about that. That's a little easier kind of as we get moving here, because you're kind of reading, you're reading the stuff that happens in front of you, more or less. Again, a little more than that, but I don't want to get that deep into it. But that's essentially for what we're looking at here today. That's the base concept. If vertical, lock man to man. That's what we're looking at. And so here's what we're going to see. We're going to see a vertical route from the outside. We're going to have a deep crosser here, and we're going to have it out and up here. And we'll actually see Amos's kind of what he's doing, or at least where his eyes are from the end zone view. But we'll kind of look at him here and kind of talk about what he's doing. So this is the route distribution. That's what we're looking at, which means locked man. And actually, we'll put this different color in defense. Locked man. Locked man. That's what we have. So basically those 2 outside at this point, man to man, and even this inside one, this is man to man because he takes it vertically. You're walling off and you're taking that vertical. If and then you can pass that off to the guy there. If it ends up going straight up vertical and then you fall off, and that's kind of what we're looking at here. Once he goes, this ends up being man to man. Take the crosser, he'll fall back into his deep zone. If his initial read isn't there, he falls back into his deep zone. So this is straight quarters. So before we get into it, It's quarters because the base deep coverage is each guy. If you split the field into quarters, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Each man has a quarter of the field. That's their deep responsibility with all the stuff we just talked about then in there, with all the rules, with all the pass off rules that then becomes that. So we'll kind of watch this in pieces. We'll go back and then watch the whole thing. Then we'll go to end zone view. So we're going to see, all right, initial release, vertical, locked man. He's taking this up, and it's outside release. This is one thing I talked to Sam about. Amos, and this is, again, we're going to kind of look at Amos because this was one of the questions of this. Was Amos supposed to be playing over the top? Once this is outside release, since he's kind of playing, he's in a back pedal. You're not widening out in like a cover 2 look. If that was cover 6, he'd be widening out over here to kind of cap this route. A lot of times you see that kind of that cloud look. So you play the cover 2 part, you play cover 6, you play the cover 2 look over the most dangerous receiver. It's kind of a, not necessarily double team, but it's a way to kind of double team. You're clouding that. You're kind of capping that route there. He's not really doing that. He's looking to see now. Traditionally, he would look at the receiver underneath. There's not really a receiver underneath. You've got kind of a sniffer tight end underneath there. We'll kind of run that back for a second. So if the number 2 receiver to this side, his initial responsibility, Amos's initial responsibility would be the number 2 receiver this side, but the number 2 receiver this side is this kind of sniffer, this up tight end here, and he's not really going to be a vertical threat. So it really is take a glance there, see if that's vertical. If it's not, then from there, some of that stuff gets a little hazy to me, but he's going to look to pick up a crosser because from this, once he sees the outside release here, which is what Diggs does, he does this kind of out and up. But once he takes that outside release, take a glance over there. Based on his drop from there, and he's dropping straight back because his responsibility is not the cloud over here. His responsibility is straight back. He's not capping that. It's not really on him. That's man-to-man Rasul Douglas principles at that point, essentially. So we'll look at Amos. You've got this big, deep crosser come over here. And so Amos is kind of glancing down. You've got this crosser coming here. So I think what's happened, so you can see Savage is kind of, he's breaking into his deep zone because if this goes vertical, that becomes his man there. Meanwhile, this is this man here. So that's what we got. So we got Savage breaking deep into his zone. Amos, who is looking there, that's his responsibility. That's breaking horizontal, which means it's picked up by that man there, which means at this point, and we'll see this better from the end zone angle, Amos is reading the eyes of Josh Allen right there. That first line is bad. And then he's also going to kind of, you'll see him kind of step down to kind of pick up that crosser, to kind of play robber on that crosser. You can see him step up a little bit. Again, he's looking there, but by this point, again, outside release based on his zone, these quarter zones, Amos's responsibility is not over the top there. So he's looking down the crosser, throw comes out. Again, we'll look at this from the other angle. So Douglas gives an extra toss there in the end zone to Stephon Diggs. So we're going to look at Adrian Amos. We'll look at this and we'll talk about a couple things and then we'll get out of here because I feel like I've been talking way too much already. So there's Amos. And we're going to see he's basically reading. He's more or less reading from the jump from the looks of things. You can see his eyes. I mean, he's kind of eyes technically on Dawson Knox, but it looks like he's basically reading Josh Allen. And Knox, again, if that goes vertically, that's him. That's his zone. He's not really going to take that vertically because that sniffer roll, he's not really going to get there. And if he is, Amos is in a spot to recover. So he doesn't really have to react at this point to the route of Dawson Knox because that's not really something he has to do. And you can see he kind of backs up. Once Josh Allen kind of goes over, still eyes on Josh Allen. He's backing up. He's got his hips back. If that crosser there, he's going to kind of look to step back into that lane because we'll see that's what Allen kind of moves to off of that. So he's looking over there. He looks back middle. You can kind of see him a little bit. And then he, flat-footed while getting drilled, goes to the top. I mean, not sometimes. A lot of times in football, man, you got to tip your hat to the other guy. And in this case, Josh Allen is the other guy. I can't remember. I think the pressure rate on him was 40-something%, and he was his QB rating on pressure against the Packers was 121 or something. Just insane stuff. And here, this is a good rep from Jarran Reed. We'll look at this real quick. He gets up on 71, kind of keeps his, and then rips through. And Josh Allen flat-footed, feet pointing this way. Diggs is all the way up over here. And Rasul, not in the best coverage, but he's trailing him. He's got to, got to step on him there or whatever. Flat-footed while getting ready to get demolished, not stepping into a throw, just lasers that thing. He's at the 31, and I'm not going to do any kind of, advanced calculus angle stuff on here, but it's more than 31 yards clearly because he's in the middle. So he's here when he releases it. He throws a perfect pass all the way over here, short notice, having just looked into the field without stepping into it, with pressure in his face, getting demolished by Jarran Reed, and just unleashes a perfect ball to Stefon Diggs. Now, someone mentioned something when they asked me about this. Did it look like Diggs stepped out? I don't think so. His foot is close there. Honestly, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Again, tip your hat to the other guy. It's such a cool throw by Josh Allen. I mean, we'll just watch it in real time. It really is just an absolute, while he's getting demolished, and you go, look back. Oh, flat-footed, perfect throw, Stefon Diggs, touchdown. So, again, a couple of the main things here. That was one of the main questions to me is, was Adrian Amos supposed to cap this? The answer, I think, based on the conversations I had, I'd say no. And based on what we looked at here, I'd say no. Based on that drop, it was not wide enough. It was not a cover 6 look. This looked, again, and talking to Sam about this, did look like pure quarters. His zone is where it is. That's not his responsibility out there. And again, sometimes so it's not on Amos to cap that. That was, once that goes vertical with the outside release, that's on Rasul. That's Rasul Douglas's man-to-man responsibility there. And lastly, again, sometimes you just got to tip your cap, man. Jarran Reed had a great rep, was able to get in, hit Josh Allen flat-footed in the face, and Josh Allen still just unleashes an absolute bomb. So great throw by Allen. So I hope you learned something with this. Again, I don't spend a lot of time on the defensive side of the ball. I look at it, but I don't talk about it a lot because I know less about it. So thank you for sticking with me through this. I hope you learned something. I know I learned a lot, and I will talk to you next time.